Hi, Jill. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's great to be here with you, Anne Marie. How are you doing?
I'm really good. We're very far apart from each other. You're on the
We
West
are.
Coast. I'm.
Yeah,
This is a big time difference. I
it
appreciate.
is. Oh, but how wonderful that we can be talking. And we're so in different parts of the world. It's just, I feel like I'm old saying that, but I just still marvel that we're able to communicate in real time, no matter where you're at on this planet.
Yeah, I feel like I know so many people now just from having these conversations. It's huge, and if we're going to thank the pandemic for anything, it would be accelerating that, I guess, for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I feel like my first question is going to be really basic, but I just am very, you're you're formerly worked in tech, public relations. I'm just curious how you went from that to launching a company focused in the menopause and perimenopause space.
Yeah, it is. It's a bit of a departure. I think one headline in the press when I started Gennev, because when we started as a company, we started with physical products like lubricants and supplements. And it said from tech jobs to lube jobs. And I thought that was a great and catchy headline. And so, yeah, very not your typical, I left my corporate position when I was in my early 40s, and I was starting to see women leave the workforce at this time of life, simply because their health was changing. And so I saw that very early. That was 6 years ago. And, where I saw it up in front and close because I led our senior women's kind of executive networking team at the company. And the conversations they were having at our dinners and at our networking events were changing from children and kids and pregnancy and daycare to menopause, but they didn't really say the word. They just said, and they were changing. And I've always had a passion for women and girls development. A lot of my philanthropic time was spent in that area. And so, it was this natural next step to say, it's time to do something different with my career. I want to do something for women. And as I started to discover how broad of a gap women's health and menopause was and how underserved it was, it just made absolute sense to start the company. Now I'm in my late 40s. I'm a customer of the company, so it's perfect. It's like I designed this place for me. But it was really this natural progression that kind of doesn't have a lot of logic behind it, other than seeing a need and having some ambition and wanting to do something about it.
So two things there. I don't know which one to ask first. Okay, first of all, the women that were leaving the company. How did that play out? How did you see that playing out? Would they tell you that they were leaving because of that?
It wasn't overt because they themselves were not even aware. I think as women, especially kind of Gen X women, we weren't educated. We don't have an awareness. There's no trigger that says you're in perimenopause now, so this is what you must do next. And so you'd hear comments like, I've lost my edge, or I just can't think clearly, or you'd start to see them plateau in their career, and then they'd kind of be managed out. And so it wasn't overt, but it was happening, and it was understated or not addressed. And it was more around, they're just not as effective in their jobs, whether they felt they were plateauing or management did. It was, so it comes through in other ways that are really negative versus, a clear, like, God, I'm having so many hot flashes when I present, and I'm tired all the time because I'm not sleeping. And I'm just like, I got to get my mental health under control. You never heard women talk about that. I don't know that it will ever get there, because who as a performer in their job wants to say, I'm having a hard time concentrating because I don't sleep at night, and I'm scared to present because I'll start hot flashing. No one's going to admit that, because it just says, I can't perform in my job anymore. And so we've got to find a new language and or support women in a way that doesn't have to be so overt, but really support them through this transition, because they're your senior leaders. They're your senior female leaders.
So in the topic of the workplace, then that's a big thing that's happening in the UK. And I don't have such a handle on the US, but I know in the UK, probably about, I think 25% of companies, according to a survey, have menopause workplace policies. And it's happening in the US as well, obviously. But do you think that's the way to go when you're talking about supporting them? Like what, we'll talk about Gennev later and what they're doing, but like in the workplace, what do you think is the way to do that?
I admire what the UK is doing. The UK is much further ahead on this topic than the US. And I think how they have started to put together workplace policies and then have an organization that workplaces kind of get credentialed with or commit. They make this corporate commitment to supporting women in menopause. I think it's going to take that kind of awareness because it's a bit of a pledge. It's like, first, I'm going to declare that I'm going to support this, and then you've got to walk the talk. And I believe that that's important because this is something that no one wants to talk about. And I don't believe that you've got to continually be talking about it and encourage everybody in a company, to go through menopause 101.
Right.
But, I do think that this notion of companies being held accountable or signing up in a way or declaring, just like they do with mental health support or LGBTQA plus initiatives, they're stepping up to demonstrate support for diverse audiences, no matter what they're going through. This is no different. And so for that, I love the approach the UK's taken. The health and wellness benefits will follow that, but you've got to have some sort of a declaration, if you will, even if it's just words, to get this kind of change happening.
Yeah, and there's an increase in the number of tribunals that are happening over this too. So if you have, just from your company management perspective, I would imagine if you have a menopause workplace policy in place, when it comes to a woman who's of that age, maybe you wouldn't be wanting to manage them out as right. Like maybe the fallback. Do you think that would be one of the sort of downstream effects of that?
It would just create a new awareness.
Yeah.
It would create a new awareness around how and why performance in a person's position might be changing, or it would give her permission to have that conversation. I think just like mental health awareness has now given, that conversation some sort of starting point between employee and manager, or between employee and HR, or manager to manager. You need a platform and you need words for people to use. And I think it starts that conversation so that the managing out or the God, I've lost my edge in my job sort of mindset changes.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of speaking to not looking at it as the end, but as a transition when we're going through it too. And it's not like I've lost it, I'm losing it. It's like I'm going through something. It's really helped me. I'm going through something. Almost like, there's a new book by Luann Brizendine called The Upgrade. It's like, I'm looking at it that way. Like I'm going through an upgrade, just like if you were to organize your whole house, you might pull everything apart and it would be really messy. Then you would put it all back together.
Yeah, well, and I have heard time and again, I don't know if you've heard this, but in presentations of like senior leaders, male or female, oftentimes you hear this: when I became a parent, I became better at my job. I became better as an executive because I managed my time differently. I made decisions differently. It was a transition in that person's life that brought them to a new level of awareness and just how they manage themselves. And I think if you use that as a parallel, I think this perimenopause and menopause transition for women, as they transition to this next chapter in life, and they come out confident, our confidence, our self-awareness. There's so many amazing gifts that this transition brings us if we can get through the challenges of it. That gets to manifest itself, I think, through our work product and our workplaces.
Where are you in that? If we said you're in 49, late 40s?
I'm 48.
48.
Yes.
Okay. Where that was my worst year, by the way. I just want to tell you that it was a personally and professionally very bad year, but also it was not a good year. How is your year going? I hope it's good.
I think that there's lots of transition. So I'll say that, Anne-Marie. It's been, I would say, I've started to feel the symptoms this year more than any. I'm on an IUD, so that masks a little bit of what's happening, but I know I'm still cycling because I can sense it in the symptoms that I experience. But yeah, I'm having a lot of sleep is my huge issue. Night sweats are massive, and Even I'm a very even-keeled person. And for the first time in my life, I've really started to feel highs and lows in my mood and my anxiety that I've never experienced. And I'm like, who am I? And I really have to restrain, or kind of say something to my husband in particular, when I'm just like, I just want to snap at you so hard, bad right now. And I don't know why. You're bugging me so much. And he's like, I'm not doing, and I said, I know. So I think that, again, I'm in this place of extreme awareness just because of what I do with Gennev, but it's a transition. So I'm right there with you. 48 is this like magic age. And even at Gennev, our average age of our patients is 49 years old. So that is the toughest moment, I think, as you are transitioning to menopause.
I think so too. And then there's that year, 47. They say generally that's a really difficult year, just the age of 47 for men and women. So I think it's such a collision of things at this time of life, right? It's like, yes, it's perimenopause, but yes, maybe you're tired of what you've been doing and you want to do something else. And yes, maybe you have to work on your marriage. And yes, maybe your kids are leaving, like it's so much, but yeah, that's really interesting that you're seeing. I just want to go right back to, you said you launched with products, but what happened? Like, what was that pivot?
We were launched Gennev 6 years ago, and it was, I think there's a lot more going on in menopause now. Well, I know there's a lot more going on in menopause. There's incredible companies and organizations and podcasts and journalists and everyone starting to talk about the topic and help women through it. We were early. We were very early in that cycle and in that phase. And so when we started, we kind of didn't know, how do we start to help women in menopause? At the time I had a co-founder. She's not active in the business anymore, but she was really crucial in helping underscore how underserved this audience was. She helped build Neutrogena. She sold it to Johnson & Johnson. She's an older woman, so she is living a wonderfully retired life, as she should now. But coming out of her time at Neutrogena, she had developed a lubricant for feminine dryness. So we took that product and we said, let's just get in market and start selling something so that we can learn and just listen to women and figure out what kind of a business do we need to build. Set up a Gennev.com website, started selling a lubricant, kind of built up the product line a little bit, surveyed 1,500 women. And those women said, and in our survey, we asked, how did you prepare for menopause? Where do you go for information? And the overriding insight out of that research was, I was completely unprepared, just start the conversation. And so the first person I hired was someone who works on content. And she and I said, let's just start reaching out to anybody who's working with this audience, whether you're a doctor, an acupuncturist, or a PT. And so we started interviewing people, writing content, and really optimizing it for search, because we knew women were online searching for answers. Optimize that. And to this day, still, more than 85% of our traffic every month is organic. Women are searching for answers, and we worked really hard to be that resource for evidence-based, medically reviewed content that gives women true information. That's not just an opinion piece, or it's not flowery, or we wanted it validated in the healthcare arena. As we moved into 2019, we continued to hear from women, I feel dismissed by my doctor. I feel unheard by my doctor. And we looked into, well, what's going on? And I think the biggest insight there is, doctors just don't receive any education in menopause. Maybe an OBGYN does. And so we partnered with our chief medical officer today, Dr. Rebecca Dunsmore-Sue, and built out a telemedicine practice, largely building that out during the pandemic. And coming out of the pandemic in the US, we're serving patients in all 49 states. And what we did early on, there's many women who want medical treatment, but a lot of women who don't. Who want to go more of a natural route. They want to just understand, what are the lifestyle changes I need to make? And so we built a multidisciplinary care team of doctors and health coaches who are dietitians. And so we have an integrated virtual care model now to this day. And that's really our focus, is changing the standard of care for women in menopause by working with care providers that understand you.
Yeah. And then I have studied it. Like, you're not going to go to someone who has maybe had 1 hour in medical school. So 75% of the people who come to you it's hormone therapy and it end up on hormone therapy, do they come to you seeking hormone therapy, do you think, or how does it work?
The majority of women we hear from are just women who have tried lots of other things. They've tried going to their doctor, they've researched. That our consumer is not a newbie to the topic oftentimes, because she has found us because she's been intentional. And so oftentimes she just knows she's feeling lousy. And so we're very focused on, well, let's understand your symptoms. The number one question we get from women is like, how long is this going to last? Where am I at in the journey? And so we created the menopause assessment on our website. It's free. And it helps you understand. We give you 1 of 5 types to understand granularly where are you at and why are you experiencing the symptoms you're experiencing. From there, we encourage you to work with a doctor and or a health coach that treats the whole person. We are not 100% exclusively about hormone therapy. We're not 100% exclusively about non-hormonal therapy options. We know that what menopause and treatment and how you address it is very unique to you. And so there's no one pill kind of fits everybody. A hormone HRT is not something everybody wants to use. And for many women, it's not an option. And so we work with her. That's why we have a care team where it's patient and provider first versus you coming to us because you're researching one of the prescriptions that we advertise on our website. We do not advertise any prescription form. It again is very much a conversation between provider and patient. And then let's understand what's that plan, that personal plan for you in its combination of medical treatment and or maybe prescription, as well as lifestyle change, nutrition, movement, mindfulness, and sleep management.
Yeah, all those things we think about. And your approach is so opposite to the approach that we hear a lot. And one of the things with the UK is they are much further ahead, but they're very, very focused on this sort of deficiency narrative that menopause is a female hormone deficiency and that hormone therapy will fix it, basically, which you've got a much more sort of all-round approach where it's like you can go on hormone therapy, but it's not a magic bullet. Like there are other things that need to be taken care of, these 4 pillars that you're talking about. How did you kind of come up with that?
It's really led by our care team. Rebecca Dunsmore-Sue, our chief medical officer, she, even as a clinician, she's an OBGYN, she's also an epidemiologist. She says, even for women who are on HRT or hormone therapy, you still need to change your lifestyle. It's not a medication only sort of change in your life. You've got to address your diet. You've got to address movement. You've got to address mindfulness and sleep as well. And that's changed behavior. And so even the way that our health coaches, who are all dietitians, but they focus as a coach because they're all cognitive behavioral therapy trained, whereby they're working with every patient around motivational change. How do they help motivate her to make changes that are sustainable? It's not just like go on a diet and change this. These are sustainable life changes, and also acceptance of where you're at in your life and your body as it's changing, and how you get through that with pure confidence and positivity. So you talk to any one of our doctors, you talk to any one of our coaches, and they will say there's benefits. There's the best benefit of a care team working together on your behalf as a woman to get you to a better place. So, and that's it, again, it comes out of their mindset. I just create a platform and a business space for them to operate in, and they've really driven that agenda.
And you're often quoted in the media now. There's a ton, like I would like to do a comparison of the number of articles that are written about menopause in 2022, being written about menopause in 2022 compared to even 2019 or 2020. It seems like there are so many more, and they're getting better. What do you think, having been in this space for so many years now, what have you seen in the transition and the way it's talked about, and what do you wish would happen?
Obviously I see more volume of people talking about it. I don't know that, I think, I don't know that the narrative has changed as much. Women still need to hear other women talking about the challenges, what they've learned, that just never changes. I see more empowerment messaging coming through, which is strong and solid. But I think that where I'm cautiously optimistic, Anne-Marie, is, oftentimes as something grows, it also then there are so many different angles you could take it. Gennev, we're very focused on improving the standard of care for women. We're a healthcare company, and we want to fundamentally change the way women's post-reproductive healthcare is addressed. And so that's pioneering work around, it's going to take clinical trial, work and new ways of thinking about her healthcare. And as it grows in the media, again, great more awareness, but it always, as things grow, you need more prominent voices talking about it. You see more celebrities coming into the mix. And I think that's a good thing from an awareness perspective. But it also, there's lots of new messages in that too, that sometimes it pushes the consumer to need to navigate, okay, what message is right for me? Because there isn't one single message that is just, I think, coming through loud and clear. So that was a little bit of a wishy-washy response to your question.
I mean, this is what the time is like. This is what's going on. Yeah.
But to net it out, more volume is always good, I think, especially for something that's been hushed for so many decades. This is a good thing, even if we're all over the map. Consumers and people need options because we're a diverse set of women around the world. So it's all a good thing.
What's your take? I don't know if this is an unfair question to ask you, and tell me if that, but what's your take on, I mean, women still have questions about hormone therapy. The literature is showing it's safer than it's ever been. The bioidentical forms that are available, that are standardized and regulated, but pharmaceutical companies, they don't have the best track record of being transparent and of putting people before profits. That's just, we have loads of evidence for that. So when women are still asking questions, I sometimes sense this irritation on the behalf of doctors and medical organizations. Like the North American Menopause Society just put out a video, and they just, like, the tone was just sort of like, you're still asking questions about this, like, sort of how cute or how irritating that. Do you know what I'm getting at? Like, women still have questions because the people who sell hormone therapy maybe don't have the best reputation. Like, where do you feel, and I say that as someone who's considering it myself. I have friends on it. But how do you speak to women about that? If someone's saying, I'm just not sure, like, I just don't know.
That's probably the majority of the patients who are coming to us.
Yeah.
And we, as an organization, very much follow, evidence-based research. And so we're kind of purists in that way. And our mission, so much of what we do is just like, let's educate the consumer and show her the options and help her understand the pros and cons of the options. Because ultimately, again, it's her decision. And how we help her push through that, again, is based upon what research shows, what the science shows. And that's kind of the best core truth we have to go back to. Obviously, pharmaceutical companies have an agenda. I think that's why you need organizations like Gennev, where we're not associated with any of them, or, we're very much, again, even if you look at our clinician protocols, the list of options, and just as a lay person, I've read through them myself, and it's fascinating. I'm like, how can any person sort through all this unless she has someone who has done the due diligence around the good and the bad? Personally, I feel so much more confident in the HRT or the hormone therapy options that are available to us today. I think they've come so far. There are so many ways to apply them. You can, that are less risky than what, was available in the early 2000s. I'm very much a proponent of hormone therapy. I'm not on it yet. Obviously, I am on an IUD, but when it's time, I certainly will move towards that. And for me, it's around bone health. I've got celiac, so I'm always watching my bones for osteoporosis. So for me, I want to strengthen my bones, and I know estrogen is going to be helpful for that. And not to mention just other benefits. However, it's not, again, like you said, the magic bullet for women. And I also think that, we shouldn't tire of continually wanting to educate women and meet them where they're at in their curiosity and their questions. Don't get impatient. Don't, whatever. This is finally, we have a lot of ground to cover from the Women's Health Initiative studies that happened in the early 2000s. So let's just dig in. This is the work we signed up for, and let's meet every woman where she's at with her questions and just educate her, because we're a generation that has grown up with doom and gloom around it, and now we're facing the life change ourselves. We want to make a smart and sound decision. So just equip women with the data they need.
What research are you excited about? What areas of research are you excited about when it comes to menopause?
I think more than anything, I am most excited about studying. I'll tell you what I'm fascinated by, but I kind of don't know how to think about it. You see new research and new opportunities coming out around delaying menopause, or how people are manipulating our hormonal structures. I think it's fascinating. I don't quite know how to think about it or feel about it. I'm a first mover on so many things in life, so I'm very curious. I'm glad people are looking into it. Honestly, at the end of the day, if there is research and work happening with the intention of improving women's lives, then let's go figure it out. It might not be right for everybody. I know there's a lot of naysayers and a lot of like contrarians, kind of like, I don't know, that sounds really terrible. I don't want to be having a period at the age of 75 or having babies, or of course not, However, I admire the fact that people are going out there to say, how are there other ways that might be, I don't know, less invasive? Maybe they're more invasive, but they're giving women a higher quality of life. And it's allowing them to perform up to the level they feel they can be. Like, I don't know about you, Anne Marie, but I just feel like I'm the sharpest I've ever been. I'm the wisest I have more to give. I have more to do.
Yes.
So equip me physically. I don't want any of that to hold me back. So that's probably the research personally I'm leaning into. Obviously, it's too early to tell, and there's not a lot of application back to our patients today. But I'm curious about it.
Well, it seems like, at first there was one, and then there was two. I know of four now. There could be more, but I know of four. And I was like, you think you're so individual with your reactions, with like, I don't want to have a period when I'm 75 or be able to have a baby. And then I read this really cool article, I think in Neolife, and it was like, should we cancel menopause? And it said, look, it's not about that. It's about, just delaying it for fertility reasons. So you don't have to have a geriatric pregnancy when you're in your 40s, right? You can just maybe have a baby just longer. Like, it doesn't mean all the things, we have this knee-jerk reaction to new things. And I like to catch myself all the time when my knee-jerk reaction is negative. But I thought that was interesting. I was like, okay, I've been thinking about this the wrong way. It's a bunch of options on the way to that. It's like, I think it's really cool too. And I think it's fascinating, all the people that are involved, and who knows who's doing it in stealth right now that we don't even know, working on some other thing. It's like, it's pretty exciting, but it's a very small group of people who are excited about this. We should form like a book club, but for,
We should, or at least an article club, because there's still like limited books. But I think when I see, in your newsletter or in others, like sharing the articles and different things coming out, I love that. I just eat that up, because I want to see what various opinions are doing. And to your point around giving women more options to have babies longer, just think about the costs in IVF that could start to bring down. Like, it can save people who want to have babies. This is couples. This is not just women, significant amounts of money. It can save the healthcare system, workplaces. Why wouldn't you explore that?
And fertility is a problem. I mean, it's a big elephant in the world that people aren't really talking about. So if someone's working on improving the fertility aspect, that's a good thing. That's our future. So yeah, I just love those people that just ask the crazy questions, right? Like they're just, why, hey, why do we have to do this thing? It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. How do you feel about I'm interested in celebrities because I spoke to a CEO early on and they wanted to get a celebrity spokesperson and they couldn't find anyone in the US. And at that point, no one was talking about it, really, not very many people. And then just a couple of years later, I mean, they were all on the covers of the magazines looking great, but not talking about it inside, just, talking about their health and fitness regime and whatever. But that's changing. Like that's now, and what's happening in the US is like celebrities are investing in companies. In the UK, it seems to be kind of like a career rejuvenator of sorts. I don't know, like that's what I'm seeing. But it seems like in the US, you just have really powerful women who are entrepreneurs and actresses, and maybe no longer actresses. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. People have told me too, oh, Gennev needs a celebrity spokesperson or a partnership or something. And we've looked into it, Anne-Marie. Honestly, it kind of bugs me, but that is what it takes to put this on the radar. So while I'm so glad celebrities are getting behind it for many reasons, whether it's investment or, just PR power, it's all good. At the end of the day, it's all good for women. So hats off. I'm so supportive of that. But the fact that it takes that, to grow your business as a business owner or to change the standard of care for women, you need a celebrity voice. That kind of really almost kind of bugs me. Simply because like if you were to think about the growth and fertility companies or birth control companies, it didn't require a celebrity voice to see that explosion happen. And so I'm just like, why is menopause so different? Like, it just, again, that gets under my skin. It takes celebrities to get this on the radar. How like fantastical is that? Like, no, this is real stuff. Every single woman goes through menopause, and let's help her live a higher quality of life. So I know I'm getting all pissed off a little bit, but it bothers me that it takes that. Not that the celebrities are standing up. I'm so thrilled they are. It just bothers me that it's required that to finally start the flywheel and maybe have some virality to what we do.
Yeah, it's almost like you need permission of someone famous to say, oh, I'm going through this for a woman. I mean, it's nice to see people talking about it, but yeah, I don't know. What would you, I'm having a weird sound. Is it me? I look crazy now. I'm just having a little weird like sound. Are you touching? You're not touching anything, are you?
I'm not, no.
Okay. I'm not, are you touching anything? That sounded weird. Julia, what are you touching over there in Seattle? Okay. I'm going to wrap up. I could talk to you. I could ask you a million questions, but for Gennev, where would you like to go? What's your dreams? I mean, you're not going to tell me your business plan for the future, but like, what would you like to see?
My mantra always is we're changing the standard of healthcare for women. And I have this vision that when women hit 45, they get their M check. We started calling it M check internally, but it's menopause checkup. Just like you get a mammogram or a colonoscopy, I want the rhythm of women's healthcare and routine healthcare to include a menopause checkup starting at the age of 45. That really starts to chart her whole healthcare regime, whether it is lifestyle change, whether it is getting a mammogram, whether it is doing lab testing around this, that, and the other. We don't have a routine around menopause like you do around prenatal health or, other aspects of your health that could fundamentally change the quality of life for every single woman on this planet. And that's a huge ambition and vision, but I absolutely think you got to start someplace. And if we start to change the expectation in the healthcare system, that again, at the age of 45, every woman gets their M check. It's written in the literature. It's practiced and taught in, higher education, to doctors, to primary care physicians, you name it, to nurse practitioners. I think that would just change the quality of life for women And then the ripple down effects of families and workplaces and wealth in this world would change. So to me, that's what excites me about what we do and about the potential of what we can do. And that's where Genev's headed.
That would be so amazing, because then you would catch at 45 so many problems like insulin resistance, some of those metabolic challenges that lead to future disease that people aren't really linking up. And then, you would also, one thing that bothers me is, as people become more aware of perimenopause and menopause, I feel like they're chalking a lot of stuff up to perimenopause and menopause when they should be getting checked out. Like, you should always get checked out. And I get worried that with the I can't control anything, but I get worried when I see women saying, oh, I'm just tired, I figure it's perimenopause. It's like, I think you should get it checked. I personally had a really big gut issue that I've just healed. And I'm writing about this, and I thought I was dying of perimenopause for like 9 months. And I had an actual specific problem. And so it really, that worries me. So a check at 45 where you had like cognitive, cardiovascular, all that stuff, your blood sugar, everything, it would be amazing. Yeah. Well, that's a very worthy goal.
It's the whole person, but it goes beyond a hot flash. I think so many people still think menopause is a hot flash or, some moodiness. It is your cholesterol. It is your blood pressure. It is metabolic. It is gut. There's so many other aspects too. We're complex human beings. And so I appreciate that you've taken it outside or beyond, just the typical symptoms and definition that menopause gets shoehorned into.
Those diseases don't just appear out of nowhere. We have the tests for them now that there's a lot. It's very rare to just have a sudden thing come on. There's often indications and markers that you can know. So it's good for women to know that. Okay. One last thing. Was it hard for you to start talking about menopause, to say the word? How did you do it? Were you embarrassed? Did you wonder what your friends would think when you did this? How did you get over it?
Yes, huge. When that headline from tech jobs to lube jobs came out, I was like, oh my God. And in a way, I'm glad it did, because then it gave me permission to just say, okay, well, the cat's out of the bag, and I was just like, everyone's going to think I have vaginal dryness, right? So
everyone's going to think I have a dry vagina. Yeah.
So once I got beyond, well, it's already out, or, that headline's in the news, then it just kind of is like, well, what do I have to lose? I'm going to just go all out. And then when you build a business around it, you become kind of, to survive is you have to talk about your business. And so for me, I've been able as a woman to separate the menopause and my menopause from the work I do and a higher cause. So that's, I guess, how it's become very comfortable for me. And now I'm, people come and talk to me about their menopause. And some people are like, one woman came up to me, she goes, it's like, you're the menopause whisperer. And I thought that was, and I'm not a doctor, but just by putting myself out there, people feel comfortable. And so, now it's natural. But I will admit, at the beginning, it was, especially moving, on LinkedIn or, just out of my corporate job, I just thought, oh my God, what are people going to think of me? And, everything, it's a big deal in the moment, and then it wears off and you're not a big deal. And that's how the transition in this has gone. So it's very comfortable now.
That's good. I had the same fears. Do you find your friends talk to you more about it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, exactly. Like my best friend would never talked about it, and it took her a long time, but now she talks about it. She told me she went to a pelvic floor specialist. I was like, wow, I just think it's so interesting how you can have these really tight female friendships and not talk about these things, talk about everything else. It's like your heart and dreams and soul, and not talk about this. So yeah, well, I talk about it too much, I think. If there is.
Hey, it's what you do. It's what you do. And I think when you have something you're really passionate about, I'm sure thankful that you are talking about it, Anne-Marie, because it's making a difference for women.
Well, me too. I'm grateful for you. So it's great to connect, and I'll be watching from afar. And women should know about Gennev, and you have one-on-one and group sessions. You have training and programs that people can sign up for from anywhere in the world. You don't have to be in the US to take part in those.
That's correct. We have, we call them group visits. up to 10 women in a group meeting with a doctor. You could be anywhere in the world. And we do that simply because there's something really magical that happens with small group treatment, if you will, and conversation and education. But then, of course, we obviously have the one-on-one appointments that are kind of more jurisdiction to the US, just because that's where our practitioners are licensed to do one-on-one care. But yeah, our goal is really to serve women no matter where they're at.
Okay, well, thank you so much for speaking to me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.